Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We are reading from Adi Lila, chapter 4, and we are on verse number 217 at the moment. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. All the other gopis help increase the joy of Krishna's pastimes with Radharani. The gopis act as the instruments of their mutual enjoyment. Purport: it is said that the gopis are divided into 5 groups, namely the Sakhis, Nitya Sakhis, Prana Sakhis, Priya Sakhis, and Param Preshta Sakhis. All these fair-complexioned associates of Srimati Radharani, the Queen of Vrindavan Dham, are expert artists in evoking erotic sentiments in Krishna. The Param Preshta Sakhis are 8 in number, and in the ecstatic dealings of Krishna and Radha, they side sometimes with Krishna and other times with Radharani, just to create that they favor one against the other. Range of mellows more palatable. Verse 218. Radha is the beloved consort of Krishna, and she is the wealth of his life. Without her, the gopis cannot give him pleasure. Verse 219. Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, left aside the other gopis during the rasa dance and took Srimati Radharani to his heart. Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, left aside the other gopis during the rasa dance and took Srimati Radharani to his heart, for she is the helper of the Lord in realizing the essence of his desire. Purport: in this verse from Geet Govind 3.1, Jayadev Goswami describes Sri Krishna's leaving the Rasa Leela to search for Srimati Radharani. Verse 220. Lord Chaitanya appeared with the sentiment of Radha. He preached the dharma of this age, the chanting of the holy name and pure love of God. Verse 222. Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya is Krishna, Brajendra Kumar, the embodiment of rasas, and he is amorous love personified. Verse 223, he made his appearance to taste that conjugal mellow and incidentally to broadcast all the rasas. Verse 224, my dear friends, just see how Sri Krishna is enjoying the season of spring with the gopis embracing each of his limbs. He is like amorous love personified with his transcendental pastimes. He enlivens all the gopis and the entire creation with his soft bluish-black arms and legs, which resemble blue lotus flowers. He has created a festival for Cupid. Purport: this is also a verse from the Geet Govind 1.11. Verse 225, Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya is the abode of rasa. He himself tasted the sweetness of rasa in endless ways. Verse 226, thus he initiated the dharma for the age of Kali. The devotees of Lord Chaitanya know all these truths. Purport: Lord Chaitanya is Sri Krishna himself, the absolute enjoyer of the love of the gopis. He himself assumes the role of the gopis to taste the predominated happiness of transcendental mellows. He appeared in that mode, but simultaneously he propagated the religious process for this age in a most fascinating way. Only the confidential devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can understand this transcendental secret. Verses 227 and 228. Advaitacharya, Lord Nityananda, Srivas Pandit, Gadadhar Pandit, Swarup Damodar, Murari Gupta, Haridas Thakur, and all other devotees of Sri Krishna Chaitanya bowing down with devotion, I hold their lotus feet on my head. Purport: the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches us that we must offer our respectful obeisances to all such pure, confidential devotees of Lord Chaitanya if we indeed want to know him in truth. Verse 229, I have given a hint of the 6th verse. Now please hear as I reveal the meaning of that original verse. Verse 230. Desiring to understand the glory of Radharani's love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love and the happiness she feels that when she realizes the sweetness of his love, the Supreme Lord Hari, richly endowed with her emotions, appeared from the womb of Srimati Shachi Devi as the moon appeared from the ocean. Verse 231. All these conclusions are unfit to disclose in public, but if they are not disclosed, no one will understand them. Verse 232. Therefore I shall mention them, revealing only their essence, so that loving devotees will understand them, but fools will not. Verse 233. Anyone who has captured Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda Prabhu in his heart will become blissful by hearing all these transcendental conclusions. Verse 234. All these conclusions are like the newly grown twigs of a mango tree. They are always pleasing to the devotees, who in this way resemble cuckoo birds. Verse 235. The camel-like non-devotees cannot enter into these topics. Therefore, there is special jubilation in my heart. Verse 236. For fear of them, I do not wish to speak, but if they do not understand, then what can be happier in all the three worlds? Verse 237. Therefore, after offering obeisances to the devotees for their satisfaction, I shall speak without hesitating. Verse 238. Once Lord Krishna considered within his heart, everyone says that I am complete bliss, full of all rasas. Verse 239. All the world derives pleasure from me. Is there anyone who can give me pleasure? Verse 240. One who has 100 times more qualities than me could give pleasure to my mind. Verse 241. One more qualified than me is impossible to find in the world, but in Radha alone I feel the presence of one who can give me pleasure. Verse 242 to 243. Although my beauty defeats the beauty of 10 million cupids, although it is unequaled and unsurpassed, and although it gives pleasure to the three worlds, seeing Radharani gives pleasure to my eyes. Verse 244. The vibration of my transcendental flute attracts the three worlds, but my ears are enhanced by the sweet words of Srimati Radharani. Verse 245. Although my body lends fragrance to the entire creation, the scent of Radharani's limbs captivates my mind and heart. Verse 246. Although the entire creation is full of different tastes, because of me, I am charmed by the nectarian taste of the lips of Srimati Radharani. Verse 247. And although my touch is cooler than 10 million moons, I am refreshed by the touch of Srimati Radharani. Verse 248. Thus, although I am the source of happiness for the entire world, the beauty and attributes of Sri Radhika are my life and soul. Verse 249. In this way, my affectionate feelings for Srimati Radharani may be understood, but on analysis, I find them contradictory. Verse 250. My eyes are fully satisfied when I look upon Srimati Radharani, but by looking upon me, she becomes even more advanced in satisfaction. Verse 251. The flute-like murmur of the bamboos rubbing against each other another steals Radharani's consciousness, for she thinks it to be the sound of my flute, and she embraces a tamal tree, mistaking it for me. Verse 252. I have gotten the embrace of Sri Krishna, she thinks, so now my life is fulfilled. Thus she remains immersed in pleasing Krishna, taking the tree in her arms. Verse 253. When a favorable breeze carries to her the fragrance of my body, she is blinded by love and tries to fly into that breeze. Verse 254. When she tastes the beetle chewed by me, she merges in an ocean of joy and forgets everything else. Verse 255. Even with hundreds of mouths, I could not express the transcendental pleasure she derives from my association. Verse 256. Seeing the luster of her complexion after our pastimes together, I forget my own identity in happiness. Verse 257, the sage Bharat has said that the mellows of lover and beloved are equal, but he does not know the mellows of my Vrindavan. Purport, according to expert sexologists like Bharat Muni, the male and female enjoy equally in material sexual pleasure, but in the spiritual world the relationships are different, although this is unknown to mundane experts. Verse 258, the happiness I feel when meeting Radharani is 100 times greater than the happiness I get from meeting others. Verse 259, my dear auspicious Radharani, your body is the source of all beauty. Your red lips are softer than the sense of immortal sweetness. Your face bears the aroma of a lotus flower. Your sweet words defeat the vibrations of the cuckoo, and your limbs are cooler than the pulp of sandalwood. All my transcendental senses are overwhelmed in ecstatic pleasure by tasting you, who are completely decorated by beautiful qualities. Purport, this verse spoken by Lord Krishna to Radha is recorded in the Lalita Madhav 9.9 of Srila Rupa Goswami. Verse 260, her eyes are enchanted by the beauty of Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa. Her body thrills in pleasure at his touch. Her ears are always attracted to his sweet voice, her nostrils are enchanted by his fragrance, and her tongue hankers for the nectar of his soft lips. She hangs down her lotus-like face, exercising self-control only by pretense, but she cannot help showing the external signs of her spontaneous love for Lord Krishna. Purport, thus Srila Rupa Goswami describes the countenance of Radharani. Verse 261, considering this, I can understand that some unknown mellow in me controls the entire existence of my captivator, Srimati Radharani. Verse 262, I am always eager to taste the joy that Radharani derives from me. Verse 263, in spite of various efforts, I have not been able to taste it, but my desire to relish that pleasure increases as I smell its sweetness. Verse 264, formerly I appeared in the world to taste mellows, and I tasted the mellows of pure love in various ways. Verse 265, I taught devotional service that springs from the devotees' spontaneous love by demonstrating it with my pastimes. Verse 266, but these three desires of mine were not satisfied, for one cannot enjoy them in a contrary position. Verse 267, unless I accept the luster of the ecstatic love of Sri Radhika, these three desires cannot be fulfilled. Verse 268, therefore, assuming Radharani's sentiments and bodily complexion, I shall descend to fulfill these three desires. Verse 269, in this way Lord Krishna came to a decision. Simultaneously the time came for the incarnation of the age. Verse 270, at the time Sri Advaita was earnestly worshipping him. Advaita attracted him with his loud calls. Verse 271 and 272, first Lord Krishna made his parents and elders appear, then Krishna himself with the sentiments and complexion of Radhika appeared in Navadvip like the full moon from the womb of Mother Shachi. She is like an ocean of pure milk. Verse 273, meditating on the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, I have thus explained the 6th verse. Verse 274, I can support the explanation of these two verses, verse 5 and 6 of the first chapter, with the verse by Srila Rupa Goswami. Verse 275, Lord Krishna desired to taste the limitless nectarian mellows of the love possessed by one of his multitude of loving damsels, Sri Radha, and so he has assumed the form of Lord Chaitanya. He has tasted that love while hiding his own dark complexion with her effulgent yellow color. May that Lord Chaitanya confer upon us his grace. Purport, this is the 3rd verse of the 2nd Chaitanyashtaka of Srila Rupa Goswami's Stvamala. Verse 276, thus the auspicious invocation, the essential nature of the truth of Lord Chaitanya and the need for his appearance have been set forth in 6 verses. Verse 277, Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Purport. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, 4th chapter, describing the confidential reasons for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Thank you for joining. We will continue from here onwards next time. Hare Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.